You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome on, welcome all to episode 209 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, and we are post-draft now. We are back. We're outside of draft season is officially over. If you're like me, it's not that I don't like prospects. There's just a lot of freaking prospects to just dissect and digest. But before we get to that, how you feeling, Eric?
I'm feeling all right. You know, home off work, week's almost over. I'm supposed to have engagement photos tonight with the fiance, but you know, weather is inclement to say the least. But yeah, you know, almost the weekend's almost here, so we're feeling great.
Yeah, I mean, so are you guys rescheduling your photos, or is it just
so we're supposed to have, I think, it rescheduled for the 16th, but I know the photographers we picked are pretty backed up. That was the text exchange that she had today. So
are we hiring new photographers?
Right?
Is that what you're trying to tell me? Do we got to pitch that to the Eagles fans out there to have them recommend somebody?
Oh, I know. I will say this. I have two people who I know who are pretty dang good behind the lens. So yeah, I would contact them in a pinch and, you know, pony up, obviously. But I'm hoping this comes through because I don't know. Yeah, we put the down payment down. So come on, you know what I mean? Like,
I hate down payments.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
Other than the lack of a person they are.
It's just right. Like, you know, I'm a guy, and this is where I lose the plot completely here because it's just, you know, to me, I'm just like, even if it's raining a little bit, like click, dude, let's go. It shouldn't take too long, brother. Like, we know
my iPhone, if I hold the button, it goes into burst mode. I need you to be like that.
Hold the hand, do the kiss, you know, do the romantic look away where everybody's the first touch looking thing, but that's actually at the wedding. So we're going to try to do that. That's a look behind the scenes. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I just, you know, wedding planning. Am I right? Like,
yes, Bruce. It's.
I'm just hoping to afford it. I don't want to plan it.
I hear that. I definitely hear that. But let's talk about another plan that actually came to fruition.
For sure, I would love to talk about any other plans.
Call me crazy.
Yeah,
but I'm assuming because I feel like it happened somewhere within the Flipping the Birds chat, and I feel like it was you predicted the Eagles getting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, or was it Terrion Arnold and Cooper DeJean? There was a pairing. Somebody was double dipping.
I don't think I predicted taking both.
Okay.
I think that my prediction was always Cooper.
Okay.
Cooper at 22. Now, going back to where you know, what do you get? Like 29th is what I think ended up getting them at.
No, 22nd.
No, Cooper.
Oh, no, 40.
Because we didn't have to trade anywhere to get Mitchell.
Yeah, 40 was on Cooper.
Oh my God, he fell back that far. That even seems a little bit more ridiculous. And this draft wasn't that far ago. Like, it's crazy that we didn't really have to do too much just to go ahead and get him, because like that was a guy that I was surefire. Like, if he's there at 22, we're lucky.
Yes,
you know. So, and I think he's confirmed pretty much that he wants that, or not he wants, but the idea with him on the Eagles is that he'll be playing nickel.
Well, not at all, actually. So,
okay.
From Jeremy, I think it was Jeremy Fowler from ESPN confirmed that the Eagles' plan for Cooper DeJean is going to be outside cornerback in his rookie season, which is phenomenal.
Right.
But I mean, dialing it back just a little bit, like what the Eagles were able to do on draft night 1, day 2, day 3, like was remarkable completely, because I feel like there's never been a draft class like this where it was loaded from top to bottom in a Howie's complete tenure, except for the Dallas Goddard class. Because I think that class was either they're still part of the team or there was just like I think Mulatto was part of that. Um, from top to bottom, it was pretty damn good. But this class, I mean, first pick Quinton Mitchell, second pick Cooper DeJean, third round pick Jalix Hunt, who I'm actually enamored with right now because I feel like he's gonna be a steal. Um, fourth round Will Shipley, fifth round Anaya Smith, Jeremiah Trotter, and Trevor Keegan.
I
Sixth
think
round,
that fifth round is probably the most impressive round.
absolutely. And then sixth round, yeah, Johnny Wilson and Dylan McMahon. But to go back to your point, like I'm with you on that. I think getting Smith, Trotter Jr., and Keegan, I feel like is a sneaky good pick where it's gonna be
Dude, he
like
has a mean streak, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a starting right guard, either the beginning of the season or midway through the season if Steen struggles. But wow, like it was an incredible draft from top to bottom. I there's no other way to put it. The fact that you landed two of the top cornerbacks in the draft within the first two rounds is freaking remarkable in anybody's book.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's a lot of fan bases that they're always walking away feeling good from the drafts, and certain teams probably shouldn't. Even though there's going to be some fan bases that are like, "Oh no, it's okay, it's okay," that you go ahead and draft a wide receiver with no quarterback to throw it to him. Yeah, I think we know exactly who. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going. I'm above that anymore. So I'm not going to name names. New York Giants. I'm not above it. Uh, but
Were you
anyway,
just excessively load up on wide receivers
dude, it's
because you're
insane. I'm
you're
like, who's throwing the
shopping your
ball?
top two guys in the draft, and now you're not shopping your top two guys, 49ers?
I'm in,
It's just
I'm incredible. It's I can't believe it. Like I'm just blown away that by some of these ideas that during the draft. Like there's not everybody had a good draft,
no,
and
you're
I know
absolutely
a
right.
lot of fan bases walked away feeling that, but the Philadelphia Eagles fans can walk away from that draft feeling and knowing that they had one of the better draft classes out the whole entire league, and they didn't get anywhere within the first 20 picks.
And it's a testament to what we've been saying since last season, where like I've said it so many times because I'm a Mets fan. It's weird to have an organization so well structured, so intelligent in how they maneuver throughout their processes, whether it's free agency, whether it's a draft, whether it's through trades. It's so weird to have such a well-oiled machine. Like you're just waiting for like, okay, there's something's got to be wrong. They signed Saquon Barkley. Something's got to be wrong. You draft Cooper DeJean and Quinton Mitchell. Something's like it doesn't make sense. This is not reality. This is doesn't happen to a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, at least throughout my fandom. Um, it just I don't know what other way to describe it besides remarkable at this point.
Yeah, and it's not even just the offense, which we'll be talking about today, but like I was looking at just some of the returners on special teams, like that crop of people. Like you already have one of the best in the league last year, and you're adding more speed out there just to compete with that. And there is competition there. There truly is. So yeah, I look at special teams in general. You still have one of the best kickers in the entire league. Your punter, he didn't have. He's not Aaron Sipos. I'll put it that way. So, so yeah. Just even in the special teams, like that's something that we won't even do a whole episode on, but or we could maybe because there are some ripples in that where it's fun to even just watch and look for. And those players, they'll make an impact against certain teams just in battle for field position.
Yeah, and then the one last note on the draft class, we can actually say the entire Eagles fandom, entire Eagles Twitter got one pick right in this whole class,
Pretty
and
much.
that was Jeremiah Trotter.
Yeah, it was. I know I didn't put Jeremiah Trotter in mine. I always meant to not do it. In my first mock, and then one of the first like comments on it was, "It's the most un-Philadelphian draft," and not have him in there. I'm like, that's fair. I understand that. Like, if they were even sniffing around the area where he might be drafted, that there was going to be a special call, and we saw the special call. It was called on camera.
Not
But
only that, but he was one of their Red Star players, which is a pretty damn high honor for a prospect to walk into.
Yeah, and I think this organization, like, right, like you have scouts who scout, a whole lot of players, and they focus on different positions. And I think the Eagles had you know, they've had this like kind of star on Trotter for a long time because it's very easy to keep an eye on somebody who has lineage in the organization. I think a lot of people like, and this is not to even knock on, by the way, that he's a fifth round pick, but I think a lot of people passed him up, and Philadelphia just had other things to prioritize. And they said, wow, really? No one took this? We probably should have not ever even had the opportunity to in the fifth round.
Yeah,
Some
I
people pegged
completely
him
agree with that.
to be like a third round guy, fourth round guy. That's a whole round later.
It felt like it was kind of like a no, like a no parking tag on him. Like it was like everybody knew like no, he has to be an Eagle. He has to be an Eagle. Like let him fall until Philadelphia selects him, and then just move on. And it happened just like that. I mean, my thing is like I know the name. The name is there, right? Obviously, we all
Right.
know it. But I feel like there's still an aspect to his game where he's gonna stand out and he's gonna be that player that we needed, him that we needed in the linebacker group this season. We were missing TJ Edwards, we were missing Kaiser White. And then how he even said it, like he sees TJ Edwards in Jeremiah Trotter, which fits perfectly with like a Kobe Dean, a Devin White. It's just we'll get more into the depth later on for the defense, but it was a home run draft for me. There's no other way to put it, honestly.
Yeah, I think everything was addressed pretty well. Then you had the undrafted free agents, and there were some people there where it's like, listen, you got some linemen there, and you have the best lineman coach who's been turning anything into something, right? Like throughout his entire coaching career. So I'm pretty excited about those guys, and I don't know anything really about them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a great place to be mentally as a fan
Mhm.
about your franchise when you're getting excited about literal undrafted, free agents.
Exactly. And hey, they even signed Mekhi Becton, former first round pick of the
Yep.
Jets. I think he's only 25 years old. We needed a tackle for the future, right? If Lane hangs it up within the next 2 years, you have a kid that could flourish and be that guy. I mean, it's this is cruel and unusual punishment towards the rest of the league.
And additionally, consider that he's a former first round pick. Consider that if he's struggling with the Jets, which it's obvious.
Yeah.
Stoutland, dude.
Yes.
Stoutland's going to correct that. The only person that Stoutland couldn't really get to was Andre Dillard,
And I feel like
right?
that was
Like, I
more of
mean,
a will
it's a
thing
very
on
short
Dillard.
list.
Yeah. I think
So,
that was a Dillard thing more than it was a Stalin thing. Just the will to want to be more. It wasn't there for Dillard, and it shows. I mean, he's on his third team now, going into this season. But
yeah, and it's just a very short list of people who just couldn't be manageable, at least on the offensive line, when during Stoutland's run as coach in Philadelphia.
yeah,
So, or as a position coach in Philadelphia. So yeah, I have more faith than not that Becton will turn around in Philly, and if Johnson is done in a few years, which I got Wood right here, I'll knock on that. Yeah, hey, if he is done in a few years, the plan B is not a bad option.
yeah, I completely agree with that. So with the draft being wrapped up, we have OTAs kicking up very soon. As you guys see, my stress ball over here.
I thought it as soon as I said that. That's why I knocked on the real wood. Zach.
Shout out to Zach Chavalella, who's under the weather right now, so we hope you feel better, brother. OTAs is kicking off very soon. A couple storylines heading into OTAs for the offense right now, right? We have the running back, we have the guy in the backfield, Saquon Barkley, but Saquon hasn't been the healthiest player in the league. So we're looking at the depth behind him. Is it Kenny Gainwell? Is it Will Shipley? You have Kendall Milton, who they just signed as an undrafted free agent out of Georgia. You have Tyrion Davis Price, who they stole from, I think, the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken, and Lou Nichols the third. What are you looking at for the running back group? I mean, obviously we know Saquon is the package. It's the player that they want. He's a great pass protector. He's great in receiving. He's great in running the ball. As Zach mentions, the Kenny G moment, the
I
Kenny
was
G
thinking too.
comments are, running back 2, running back 3. do you think Kenny Gainwell is fitting for the role, or do you think Will Shipley, the rookie, is actually gonna be the guy to surpass him and possibly, like Zach is mentioning, Kenny Gainwell being on the bubble?
Yeah, I put my faith in Shipley. I it's here's the thing with Gainwell. Um, to me, it sounded like he didn't agree with the offense last year. And I know that's obvious. It sounded like pretty much that, to most people with those
Hmm.
comments. If that changes this season, then that's fine. But the thing is, he's already opened his mouth.
Yes.
So that's the problem here. I think that there's going to be before those comments a position battle for that second role. Obviously, Saquon, there's not going to be a position battle for that. But
No.
if someone were to go down, I will say, or if there's a mix in tempo, which it sounds like that'll be more of a probability, I have Shipley. I think I want to see what Shipley has to offer, and it's easy to say that for somebody who's a rookie, but I think we've all seen Gainwell and that what peak Gainwell is.
Hmm.
So make him the Boston Scott, and yeah, if Shipley, it proves that he's a more of a he's more of a stronger hand, more of a stable hand, then yeah, I'm rolling with Shipley week one as far as a backup to Barkley.
If I'm able to rewind to Kenny Gainwell and listening to his comments, last season there was an uproar, right? We saw Kenny Gainwell outsnap DeAndre Swift within the first 2 weeks, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. No,
Mhm.
in the first week. Then he went down with injury. DeAndre Swift got into the role, took over, and it was his show. Kenny Gainwell said that there was a disconnect, and unlike teams like KC, and my thing is, how the hell you know how KC's ran when you've only been with the Eagles and one team your whole career? But it sounded bitter. It sounded like you weren't really on the right ship. It sounded like people in the front office wanted you to be the guy, but people in the front office wanted Swift to be the guy. Nick Sirianni wanted Swift to be the guy. There was a lot of disconnect and discourse about the running back position. There's no disconnect this season. And I
Right.
feel like it's either you get on board or you get out at this rate. Kenny Gainwell, we've seen what he can do in the playoffs, and it was remarkable during the Super Bowl run what he was able to do. But outside of that, we haven't seen much. This isn't a kid that has shown great ability. He's shown potential to have good ability, but he hasn't shown great ability to be reliable enough to be that guy. And now you open your mouth and you put yourself in a position where teams are like, okay, like, why did he say that? You have Howie looking like an ass now, and Nick Sirianni looking like a jackass because you said those kind of comments. Meanwhile, everybody praises the Eagles organization from the outside in. Saquon's here. You're not going to be that guy. It's not happening unless Saquon,
It's the
knock on
same
wood, goes
exact
down.
line when Swift was here too. Like he wasn't going to be the guy at any point with Swift here. So I
Mhm.
don't understand why he's all of a sudden trying to shake up this kind of controversy with these comments with his role. Like it doesn't make any sense. You have to know every good team and successful team, even championship teams, have role players who know their role and
Exactly.
they step up when called upon. If I think for the most part, Gainwell has done that, like you were saying, but the comments that he makes, you do worry about that. And I can
Mhm.
almost see him. Yeah, listen, Gainwell, is he a candidate to be on the move? Like I would even go out the venture to be that far
I
because
would
in the
I would
NFL,
yeah.
you look at locker room like the locker room more than most sports. Because that bond of players, everything has to work. It's not just 5-on-5, it's 11-on-11. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's more people you have to rely on.
Exactly. I completely agree. And my thing about it is, like, if I'm Howie Roseman, the first person I would ship out is Kenny Gainwell over a James Bradbury because James Bradbury had it rougher than any Eagle last season. He struggled mightily on the field. He struggled with the fan base coming for his neck off the field, and you have never heard a peep out of his mouth. Not even this offseason after they drafted two cornerbacks. You could see him in the practice photos in the background actually working his ass off with these guys. But Kenny Gainwell is just, you made yourself the donkey of the day. Like
Yeah.
that's just really what you did, and it sucks because I was high on Kenny coming out of college because I felt like this guy is gonna be phenomenal. He could receive, he could do everything that you need him to do behind Miles Sanders. Now it's like we have Will Shipley who can actually do everything we thought you can do behind Saquon. So now it's either you get in line or you just get out. And
And that's exactly it right
if you're
there. You
not for the
nailed it.
competition, then what are you doing
It's
here?
it's less of a competition and more are you a Philadelphia Eagles guy?
Yes,
That's really what it
that's the main thing.
becomes.
Yep,
So
absolutely agree with that. So the running back position is going to be definitely interesting. I'm curious to see what we see at Shipley. I'm curious to see what we see out of Gainwell and if he's actually going to be the RB3 or is there somebody else in mind. Um, then outside of that crowded position, we have wide receiver 3. I mean, it's the AJ Brown, Devontae Smith show when it comes to wide receivers,
right.
but that third position is equally as important, and it's been a weak spot due to the Quez Watkins of the world. And now you have, I feel like, 3 guys you can really rotate or throw into this position with Devontae Parker, Paris Campbell, and Anais Smith. I'm extremely high on a rebound season from Paris Campbell because under Sirianni, he had his best season, and the guy is nasty in the slot, I feel. But Anais Smith is a Swiss Army knife. Devontae Parker's in his later years in his career. How do you feel this is gonna end up shaping out for the Eagles going into the season?
Somebody like this was a few more like years ago, like let's just say like 2 or 3, maybe even 3 or 4 years ago. Like I would be all over, Parker right now. It almost be like a no question. I think the wide receiver 3 would have been Parker if it was 3 or 4 years ago. You bring up a very great point about Paris Campbell. He's not old. He's about 26 years old, and with Sirianni, he flourished. That being said, Anais Williams. I always want to say his name incorrect. Anais Williams. He's the rookie here, and he's going to be obviously when it comes to the wide receiver 3 position. I think he's going to be the one that's the most interesting to watch. Now, if he's in the mix, I have to feel that the wide receiver 3 position is more wide open than even Campbell, Smith, or Parker. To an extent, and then we have to look further in the depth chart here. But like, where's Covey, Wilson?
I was gonna bring that up next. I mean, do you feel like Covey's earned this
Is
chance?
Covey a wide receiver or is he a returner?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's exactly where I'm on when I'm on too. And I think he's more of a return guy, and that's his utility. I think he's a utility, or if you want to call it just when you play NCAA, you see ATH like athlete. Like, yeah, maybe he's that. I don't know. Maybe he's just the athlete slot, whatever position on the team. But I wonder, like, how is this wide receiver 3 going to be a stable, one guy and then next man up thing? Or by formation, are we going to see Campbell more and then we get in the red zone and we're going to put Smith in? Like, who's our, the red zone target between the two? I think it's not going to be a one receiver guy. I think it's going to be a cycle in.
And I was
it might even be that with God, a wide receiver 3 in some formation just could be a tight end as well.
That's very true. And I feel like when you talk about the red zone, you could throw a guy like Devontae Parker because of his 50-50 catchability. Like, he still has that ability to outmaneuver a cornerback. And I feel like, going into the season, I could be wrong on this. If the Eagles go 5 wide receivers, then you have your 5 right there in Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Devontae Parker, Paris Campbell, and Anais Smith. And to me, that's one of the better groups in the league because that third wide receiver position, even though it may not be solidified as one person, that rotation is pretty damn lethal because you're throwing defenses off their game. You could throw a nice Smith in a slot, and then the whole world is going to break loose because nobody can catch the kid. Or if you go into the red zone, you throw Devontae Parker, and the same applies for Paris Campbell when it comes to Anais Smith's stature. I don't know. I'm cool with that 5, honestly. Like, if you're going 5 wide receivers, that's a hell of a group for me going into the season. And
there's
I'll sign up
also
for that any day.
this too. Like, you have those wide receivers, but you also have Uzama and you also have Alberto. Like, those are some athletic big guys too. And if you're looking for a red zone body, maybe the answer is not even receiver past Brown and Smith. You're still going to have Goddard out there as your primary. So if you want to stick him on a block, which he's not a bad blocker, you're not going to be risking him to get injured running routes and being tackled as much because you have options receiving too.
And then
so
we didn't bring
this
up
could
Johnny
be a
Wilson
whole
as
health
well.
play where you got tight ends being featured almost more than ever in the Eagles offense.
And then can't forget Johnny Wilson, who I think is like listed as 6'6" or 6'7".
He's a big guy.
freaking
Yeah.
huge wide receiver. I don't know, like this is a pretty damn good group to go into the season into OTAs with. How it pans out, I'm not too sure, but I feel like this is one of the more well-rounded groups that we've had since God knows when at this point.
I just want to see who's going to be the wide receiver who catches every ball and then gets cut. That always breaks my heart. There's always somebody that catches every ball, and I'm like, man, we should have kept him. Like, I'm pretty sure. God, who was it? There was like, there was a Philadelphia Soul at one point, wide receiver who played in the original, like, Arena League, or maybe the Arena League before, like, it was all broken up and lawsuits and yada yada. But, but I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I think Darius Prince was on the Eagles roster for the preseason at one point, showed out, and then just unfortunately didn't make the roster. And I'm like, why? Like, is because he's too small or something? Like, did you guys really think that? Because his hands were electric in the preseason, and he was one of the best AFL receivers in that rendition of the AFL. And I know it's Arena League, and I know it's a lot different, but the hands aren't different.
Mhm.
And he caught, and to show hands in the NFL level, even in the preseason, you have to show that you can separate. He was fast and he had hands. Like, like I didn't understand it. So to me, that always stuck with me. So I just want to know, like, geez, which guy is going to be
That
pretty much
guy.
a practice squad guy, maybe even trade bait for a team, for like a low, or like a, I don't know, a fifth, sixth, maybe a pick, maybe a compensatory pick, something or other. Like, I don't know.
That would be very interesting. You got to think about a guy like Joseph Nada, who's been on
Right.
with the Eagles since last season. A lot of people were high on him, and then obviously he didn't pan out to making the roster, but he's been a part of the team ever since. There's a lot of guys that have this potential where they could be good on another team, but for some reason it always works out where the Eagles just they think they're better off than better than when it comes to certain guys. And it's gonna be like you said, it's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes this offseason. Another thing that's gonna be very interesting is the offensive line, which I think we spoke a little about before the podcast. Trevor Keegan was drafted. Tyler Steen is here. Mekhi Becton is here. Uh, Dylan McMahon is here. Cam Jerkins didn't allow a sack at right guard. Like, there's so many things that could go well for the offensive line. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on the right guard position, which is the topic of debate right now in Philadelphia. Tyler Steen, a third round pick. Keegan's going to be a rookie. He was drafted in the I think we said the 5th or 6th round. Mekhi Becton was rumored to possibly be training at right guard. How do you feel things will pan out for the Eagles for the right guard position pretty much for the Eagles this season?
I I have faith in Tyler Steen. I liked what I saw from him last year. I think he gets a little bit a little bit rough reputation from fans because of the uncertainty, and everything's uncertain. I mean, I'm still uncertain about Nakobe Dean. I will always be uncertain about Nakobe Dean until I see Nakobe Dean healthy. So, like, we'll talk about that when we get to the defensive part of this, conversation. But with Steen, I didn't see enough to make me think that, he can't contend to start week one to be your guy. That being said, going back to, that 5th round there, right? Like, Trevor Keegan. Like, Trevor Keegan is somebody who just looks like a plug and play guy that no one, I guess, knew he was on the board still. I don't know. Like, in the 5th round, just look at this dude. Just look at him. And I know that you can't just base talent off of just stature, but listen, he was a captain of his team. Like, there is leadership there. There's obvious talent. He didn't play for a snub school. He is an offensive lineman, that can handle his business. And if Philadelphia might have honestly found the steal of the draft and just by getting him.
I mean,
Like,
you're
I
absolutely right
think
in
he's
that
more of a
regard.
sure thing as far as the steal of the draft. Having said what I said earlier about Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I think Keegan's actually the steal of the draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's considering that they still got Cooper after their 1st round.
Yeah, and listen, I don't disagree at all. I mean, so Tyler Steen, looking at the stats from last season, he allowed in 71 snaps, he allowed 6 pressures, No sacks though. But Trevor Keegan, I mean, damn near impressive throughout his collegiate career, where
Yeah,
you're talking about 41
consistent.
pressures and only 3 sacks allowed, 30 hurries
Consistent.
in 4 seasons. I mean, had his best year obviously last year. I think you're right. I personally feel like Keegan could be a huge steal for the Eagles going forward. Um, One thing that I feel like can't be overlooked though is regardless of who they go with, they have the depth. Like, that's
Yes,
key more than
yes.
anything because I feel like they haven't had reliable depth. They had Jack Driscoll. They had a couple guys last season, but now you have, like, Lane Johnson goes down, you have Mekhi Becton. Tyler Steen doesn't work out, you have Trevor Keegan. I mean, the list goes on. It's just this was an offseason where the Eagles had to replenish their depth. They had to make sure that the depth was there and, in case something goes wrong, the team could still stay afloat and still win. You're in that position now. You have it at nearly every position. I mean, they have nearly like probably 20 cornerbacks, I feel like. That's insane. But the depth everywhere is just it's outstanding. The amount of players you have, but what's even more impressive is the talent that's back there.
Yeah, like my mind tells me this. It tells me that Steen, based on familiarity, and I think he will have a solid camp as well. Um, will probably be your day one starter there, but I don't think the Eagles wait if if he shows that he's struggling for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And maybe 3 weeks is too long. So maybe he just can't have consistent games where he struggles, because Keegan, I think, is going to be on his heels throughout the entire season, knocking at the door every opportunity.
I
There
completely
are
agree with that.
every single year going to be times where someone also gets hurt on that offensive line. It's
Yes.
one of the roughest and toughest. If it is the roughest and toughest place to play ball in in football,
Yeah, I
and
completely agree.
position to play ball in football.
You gotta think about it,
And
these guys have to trot backwards and being attacked at the same time. Like, it's
yeah,
pretty damn difficult.
yeah, like you're giving up ground, but you have to smash forward to not give up enough ground, and then your head's being rattled all the time. Listen, just go ahead and watch. Unfortunately, I'm going to say watch that movie Concussion, and you'll see how many times, or they actually go over a stat of how many times the head rattles for a lineman in football, and they're not even being tackled. It's the most violent roll, and the thing is, Keegan's the guy with the mean streak. And he's a guy, dude, he'll be nipping at the heels to get in there. And once he gets in there, he's gonna stay there.
And
That's
hey,
the thing with him.
he's a lifelong Eagles fan as well. Like, let's not forget that he was wearing the Deshaun Jackson jersey during his press conference.
Yo, all right. So sidebar, real quick. The Deshaun Jackson and
I'm not doing it.
no, okay, all right,
You
never mind.
you can give your thoughts. You can absolutely give your thoughts. I don't want to tread backwards, and I feel like the nostalgia of it is getting too emotionally attached to fans. Like, I feel like
I
fans are thinking like that team could have been something,
I do think so. Do think
but
it could have been something.
it I don't know because they didn't accomplish much with Andy Reid. They got cute with Chip Kelly. Um, yeah, you can give your thoughts. The floor is yours. I don't have much to say
I'm
on it.
just gonna make it quick because this is not what we're here about. But I think Chip Kelly ruined that team based on a bunch of things that just weren't true. Like, I remember where I was rolling up to work in the morning, sitting in the parking lot, and just disbelief that they traded Deshaun Jackson because they thought he might be a
Well, they
gang
released
member.
him. Remember, they released him. They didn't even
Okay,
trade
yeah,
him.
all right, that's what it was. Released him,
Yeah.
and then he signed with Washington like
Yeah.
immediately after.
Yes.
Yeah, yep. And didn't we during that era that was the trade. It was LaShawn McCoy for a linebacker after he was the leading rusher in the NFL.
It's
Make me coach. Instead of Chip Kelly, who's married to the game, I am kind of divorced to the game every once in a while, and I feel like I know more.
it's inexplainable. It's
Dude, I hate it to this day. I'm done. That's all I needed to say. I agree wholeheartedly with them.
it's one of those things like, in high school when you had read a history book, like, obviously United States school systems left a lot of things out. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where the Eagles will leave out their history. It was like this era didn't exist. This never
Oh,
happened.
it
We don't know who this
existed.
is.
It's sad because he also, the quarterback that won the Super Bowl for the Eagles, guys? Yeah, he traded him for like a bag of chips, and he never touched 10 losses in Philadelphia at that time.
You trade
Remember
him
that?
for longer
Remember?
sleeves. Oh,
God, I hate Chip Kelly.
it's one of those moments where like it's a bad mark in the Eagles record, right? In the Eagles history. But the good thing that came out of that was how he came out a more intelligent GM.
He did.
He came out, he did things that no other GM did in Eagles history, and made things happen and led us to the Super Bowl, right? And because of that, we are in the position where we are in right now, where we expect this team to contend year in, year out because of the amount of talent that's been put on this roster. I'm gonna regret saying this. It's similar to how the Phillies are viewed right now. The Phillies have an immense amount of talent on their roster,
Right.
and they're expected to contend year in, year out, regardless of who's out there. The Eagles are in that same position because of what happened with the Chip Kelly era.
I felt, though, I hear what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. Last year did not feel like a contender year to me at any point because I knew who the coordinators were. And I
Why do you gotta
knew who
bring
the
that back up
coordinators
again?
were, and unfortunately the talent and the way, like, the talent did not carry the coordinators, and the coordinators didn't know what they were doing.
That's a very fair point. Very fair
So
point.
that's why I can't sit there and say, "Oh, this team felt like contenders last year." Listen, I remember
Talent-wise,
getting
though, the talent on paper, they should have been contenders. But
that's fair.
in
That's
reality,
fair.
the rookie coordinators really damn, I didn't need all that, Duck. Brian, don't jinx us like that, stupid Mets fan. God. Welcome back to the show, Duck. It's been a while.
Yo, pop quiz, Brian, real quick.
Oh God.
Before we talk about, because while we're on the topic of coaches, Vic Fangio, where did he start his coaching career?
40 years ago, he started.
No. Start his coaching career.
Oh, that I have no idea.
Philadelphia Stars, Baltimore Stars, like the merging team of the UFL.
Okay.
I think it was the UFL or USFL. Maybe.
I'm very subtly excited to see what Fangio is going to bring us. I'm like the
a better version and like and more nuanced version of his style that we saw last year because
we're getting the original style. Like we have the flavor, like like
USFL. Thank you, Doc.
We have the flavor coming in, and it's like going to the store, going to the Dollar General, and you're craving Doritos, and you end up with some off-brand name like nachos and cheese or something like that.
Yeah,
like we're finally getting the actual. We're actually finally getting the Doritos packaging.
I like how your brand name is literally what it is, nachos and cheese.
Yeah, that's literally what every brand name is like. Like Ruffles is called like chips with ripples, like. Lay's is called salty chips or something like that. Like it's always like that.
Go get a Gatorade water and it's just called water. Like
it's called Aid. Water Aid.
Pause. Where's Zach? Pause.
Oh, but yeah,
as far as
talking about.
I remember. As far as the contention though goes, I do suddenly feel that this team, like just before they even walk on the field, has an opportunity to contend than last year. I never had the feeling right now a year ago, never had the feeling because Brian Johnson to me, like I knew talent would get us so far, like at least to the playoffs, but Brian Johnson, when are we going to put it together? We haven't played a complete game. Like if I hear that this year, I'm going to go insane.
Talent got us a 10-1. Brian Johnson couldn't carry us to the rest of the way, pretty much. That's what it was. That's really what it was.
And then I also look at the defense who couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Yes, absolutely. It was
so
yeah. But listen, it's gonna be a good.
I'm sorry to cut you off one more time, but which is why if Bradbury were to have a comeback year, think about that. He has a defensive coordinator, and it's not two of them.
Yeah,
so it could. Hey, I mean, if there's a reason for you to not be all of a sudden surprised if he has a comeback season, then maybe that's it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if Bradbury could do solid this season, if they don't move him, which I strongly feel like it's 100% shot that they're
Yes,
gonna
I
move
think it's
him
a
at some
foregone
point.
conclusion too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely gone. Then it's gonna help the rookies as well in DeJean and Mitchell, in my opinion, which would be great. But it feels like he's definitely gone at some point. Um, but yeah, I mean, hey, listen, that's our perspective on the offense. We know OTAs kicks off, I think, on the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. The day before that, we'll kind of break down the defense, and I feel like we're very excited to talk about that portion of the roster.
There's gonna be
And
a lot
then
of Cooper talk, and oh my god, this secondary, dude. I'm happy. I'm very excited.
yes,
I'm
it's
so
gonna be
excited about
phenomenal.
the defense this year.
It's gonna definitely be it's gonna be exciting. I just can't wait to see what it's gonna look like. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I mean, what are your final thoughts on the offense, OTAs, and what storyline wise?
I really like how Kellen Moore is taking full control. Like, this is what I'm doing with my offense. Like, we're not just going to do motion because we feel that other teams do motion because it's fun to watch. There's going to be purpose to what he does. Like, when that's what it felt like last year, too.
Hmm.
Hey, we're going to run motion to deviate away from, like, obviously that Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy who, moves the ball on this run.
Yep.
Like, it just
It feels like we're gonna
doesn't
get
make
an
any
offense
sense.
that's actually an offense as opposed to
Yeah.
something that somebody from Madden's pulling together. Like
That's I was going to say the same thing.
yeah,
Like, there is a purpose to this. There's psychology behind it. It's a step that's coordinated, if you will.
yeah,
I like that about Kellen Moore, and even if it clashes a little bit with Sirianni, at least he has some sort of foundation to clash with them on, versus
hmm
just going, yeah, but I think Jalen should run here, or like whatever the hell was going through his mind, and never actually looked articulate on the field. Kellen
hmm
Moore, we know he is articulate with his offenses on the field. So that's what I'm excited for about this offense, because I can sit there and tell you all day, personnel wise, like we just did for like 40 minutes. The guy who's coaching the dang team on that side of the ball is going to be the glue that makes all that talent show up.
Yeah, I completely agree. My final thoughts was gonna be the same thing. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to hear the fact that Kellen Moore wants to take advantage of Jalen Hurts' running ability, because the Eagles,
Yeah,
Bill Colarulo put it up on that the Eagles are pretty much unstoppable when Jalen Hurts gets 10 plus touches in a game when he runs the ball. So I'm
I
excited to
think
see
he
that.
put up like 14 or 16 plus touches, wherever it was. He's undefeated.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think the other one is only like 4 losses or something of that sort when it's 10
Yep.
plus, which is phenomenal. So getting back to the roots of everything, getting back to getting back to the garden, Sirianni, and making things happen. It's gonna be phenomenal to see. Like I mentioned, we'll cover defense next week and get you guys on board with that. But we appreciate you guys for coming out and joining us tonight. We're stoked about the draft. We're stoked about OTAs. We're stoked about the season coming up, and we're stoked to have you guys with us every step of the way. Until next week, I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese. Shout out to Zach Chavalella, who's under the weather. Shout out to Morgan, who's on a tear in Canada right now. He's at great things going on right now with his actual coaching career. So shout out to Morg. We should see him next week. I feel like he told me that, but I'm not gonna hold him to it. But let's see what happens. Yeah. But until next week.
Duck knows, man.
Yeah, he said it. I was waiting for you to say it, but he put it in the chat.
You put it in the chat. You know what time it is. Go Birds!
Yes, sir.
Flip.